being here, sir. So the mayor of Springfield, Ohio, Robb said, quote, all these federal politicians that have negatively spun our city, they need to know they're hurting our city. And it was their words that did it. Before Donald Trump talked about eating dogs and cats on a debate stage, it was you, Senator, who first elevated this baseless rumor. These are your constituents. So why are you putting them at risk by continuing to spread claims about Haitian immigrants, despite officials in your state saying that there's no evidence and pleading for you to stop?
Well, Dana, first of all, what's putting the residents of Springfield at risk, which was a town completely ignored by the American media until Donald Trump and I started surfacing some of these concerns, is that they can't afford housing, they can't afford health care. The schools have been overwhelmed, the hospitals have been overwhelmed, and they're overwhelmed because Kamala Harris allowed 20,000 Haitian migrants to get dropped into a small Ohio town of about 40,000 people, and it's completely overwhelmed the services. Now, you ask, why have I talked about some of the things that I've been talking about? Let me just say this. My constituents have brought approximately a dozen separate concerns to me. 10 of them are verifiable and confirmable, and a couple of them I talk about because my constituents are telling me firsthand that they're seeing these things. So I have two options, Dana. I can ignore them, which is what the American media has done for years to this community, or I can actually talk about what people are telling me. And of course, many of the things that the media says are completely baseless have since been confirmed. For example, I was told, Dana, that by the American media, that it was baseless that migrants were capturing the geese from the local park pond and eating them. And yet there are 911 calls from well before this ever became a viral sensation of people complaining about that exact thing happening. So my attitude is listen to my constituents. Sometimes they're going to say things that people don't like, but they're saying things that people don't like because their town has been overwhelmed, and it's my job to try to fight for them and to protect them. Kamala Harris opened the border, and now these people are suffering. That's what I'm focused on, Dana.
Senator, I have to go through several things that you just said. First of all, the Clark County Sheriff and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources reviewed 11 months of 911 calls. They only identified 2 instances of people alleging Haitians were taking geese out of parks. They found 0 evidence to substantiate those claims. Also, other evidence that you have talked about, even you've retweeted, alleged evidence, are unsourced social media videos from a different city, apparently no connection to Haitians. And this is from a conservative activists who offered a $5,000 reward.
Now, that's the video from Canton that we went over, all right, that they're talking about right there.
For such things. And then going just backly to the schools and the hospitals and so forth being overwhelmed, nobody is disputing that the town of Springfield, Ohio needs help. But you're not just a bystander, you're the senator from Ohio. So instead of saying things that are wrong and actually causing the hospitals, the schools, the government buildings to be evacuated because of bomb threats, because of the cats and dogs thing, why not actually be constructive in helping to better integrate them into the community? Because there are a lot of employers there who say that the Haitian workers are helping fill jobs that they need desperately filled.
Dana, first of all, let me just respond to a couple things that you said, but I want to start with something you said, which I think is frankly disgusting and is more appropriate for a Democratic propagandist than it is for an American journalist. There is nothing that I have said that has led to threats against these hospitals. These hospitals, the bomb threats and so forth, it's disgusting. The violence is disgusting. We condemn it. We condemn all violence.
Senator, this happened after you and President Trump were on the debate stage, said that cats and dogs were being eaten.
You asked a question, Dana, and I'm going to go ahead and answer it. What we have said is that this town has suffered terribly under the policies of Kamala Harris. Now, you just accused me of inciting violence against the community when all that I've done is surface the complaints of my constituents, people who are suffering because of Kamala Harris's policies. Are we not allowed to talk about these problems because some psychopaths are threatening violence? We can condemn the violence on the one hand, but also talk about the terrible consequences of Kamala Harris's open border on the other hand. Now, let me just fact check a couple of other things that you said, Dana, because it's important. You said that all of these migrants are in the country legally. They are in the country through what's called temporary protective status. Right. That is when Kamala Harris waved a magic amnesty wand, taking people and giving them legal status. That is.
Now, here's the thing, right? This part, what JD Vance is talking about right here, I agree with this. He's being accurate with this. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. And this is what I'm talking about when I always mention how it's different how somebody entered the country versus what their status is now. Their status as it is right now does not always reflect their entry to the country. And if they entered the country illegally, then that should be dealt with by law enforcement, regardless of what the current laws are for staying here. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. Shout out to Patrick. What's good with it, bro?
is not to say that they're legally. That is a terrible indictment of her amnesty policies that have further opened the border and further caused
not illegal.
terrible migration into this country.
And I agree 100%. And the reason why is for exactly what we're seeing now. Because JD Vance went there, presented himself like a clown, followed through on misinformation that hadn't been vetted, being emotional and running with his heart on his sleeve, he has now turned this entire conversation into a joke, which if people go in that are supposed to be professionals and they go in with an agenda, allegedly, to get certain things discussed, and you talk about something wild and nonsensical instead of actual, factual, verifiable information, to me, it tells me that that individual is trying to throw the conversation. So, like I was saying yesterday, if somebody like JD, and honestly, to me, I'm questioning whether Trump is trying to throw the conversation, because why would you just start screaming like a madman about unfounded rumors? Why would you do that if you weren't purposely trying to sabotage what we got going on? You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense, give me a thumbs up. If it doesn't make sense, give me a thumbs down.
You might not agree with the policy, and obviously you don't, which is totally fair and legitimate.
So now everybody always likes to use that word agent, right? I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna say, when it comes to this whole situation right here, Trump and Vance moving like agents. They're moving like they're trying to tank the election on their own so that Kamala Harris can get voted in and just go ahead and do what she's gonna do. Because there's no possible way. They said that Tulsi Gabbard was supposed to be helping Trump with the debate. We didn't see Tulsi Gabbard do any of this when she debated Kamala Harris. So we know that he didn't get that strategy from Tulsi Gabbard, because Tulsi Gabbard successfully, definitively beat Kamala Harris in a debate. And it didn't look like he took anything out of the Tulsi Gabbard playbook.
Matt, there are policy disagreements all the time, but the fact is it is the law, because President Biden and Vice President Harris are, but I don't want to frankly go down this conversation about policy, because
you made a point. You don't. I agree. You don't want to talk about policy.
No, what I want to talk about
instead of about the fact,
Senator,
Kamala
it was
Harris,
your distraction.
Granted amnesty.
You were the one who started talking about eating dogs and cats.
Level.
You were the one who.
Real quick, shout out to everybody that's watching. I appreciate you guys. If you all haven't smashed the like button yet, please do me a favor. Take a moment, smash that like button. Also, if you guys have not hit the bell, please take a moment, hit the bell, and also please share this stream to your social media. All right. We got 20 people watching. Shout out to y'all. And we got 26 likes. We need 6 more people watching to get the quality control to 1-to-1. That'd be great. Hit that like button, share the stream. If you've done it already and you're enjoying the content, throw some flames in the chat. Let's get it.
Cats, and I talked about it because you were ignoring this community. My constituents talked about it.
Have you been to Springfield?
It's my responsibility to surface their concerns when the American media.
Have you been to Springfield?
Dana, I've been to Springfield probably 100 times in my life.
How about recently, since you've heard
ice cream at Young's Jersey Dairy.
Have you heard recently since you've gotten these calls?
Have I been in the last 4 days?
No,
I haven't been in
about
the last 4 days, but I've talked to a lot of people in Springfield, Dana, and they're telling me this stuff is happening. Dana, would you like to ask me questions and then let me answer them, or would you like to debate me on these topics? I noticed that when you had Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, you gave them multiple choice answers to the questions that you asked, and you allowed them to answer the questions. I'm happy to be here to talk about policy, but if you're going to interrupt me every single time that I open my mouth, then why am I even doing this? So please ask a question, and I'd ask you to be polite enough to let me answer it.
Yes, I am, and I think that if Kamala Harris
oh man,
and Tim Walz were making unsubstantiated claims that had racist undertones about people eating dogs and cats, and they didn't answer the questions about that, then I would have similar interactions with them. As you know, I am very grateful that you come on the show, as I am for other Republicans. But this is something that you're hearing from constituents. I did a lot of reporting. I talked to people in Ohio over the weekend, and they're really worried about these claims. The policies, yes, I am agreeing with you that what I heard is that there is concern that these migrants, there's a lot of them, and the integration isn't being done fast enough and well enough. And that's a totally legitimate conversation. But there are other conversations that are happening. Aiden Clark, who is an 11-year-old boy who was killed in Springfield last year. It was a car accident involving a Haitian immigrant. You said that he was murdered. His father said that's not true. It was an accident. Here's what he said to you.
Politicians, Bernie Moreno, Chip Roy, JD Vance, and Donald Trump. They have spoken my son's name and used his death for political gain. This needs to stop now. They are not allowed, nor have they ever been allowed to mention Aiden Clark from Springfield, Ohio. I will listen to them one more time to hear their apologies.
Senator, he's asking for you to apologize. Will you?
Now, let me ask you guys this, and I think I asked this in the last reaction to this. How many of you guys think that JD Vance is going to apologize for using the story about that kid who got deleted as part of his political tactics? If you guys think that he's going to apologize, give me a thumbs up. If you guys think he's not going to apologize, give me a thumbs down. And shout out to Patrick. I agree 100%. Like I said, when it comes to the mainstream media, for the most part, every major TV channel except for Fox is 24/7 pro Kamala Harris propaganda and anti-Trump and Vance bashing. And it doesn't give the news accurate, which is one of the reasons why, like you guys know, in most of my content that I do, I use local news. For one, because it's closer to the area, and for two, in most cases, they usually don't have these type of slants. In some cases, you do get these type of slants, but for me, the local news seems to be a lot better with not having this kind of nonsense in it. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If y'all disagree, give me a thumbs down.
Dana, first of all, my heart goes out to the Clark family, and I don't bring their son's name up because they've clearly expressed a preference for politicians to not bring their son's name up. I wish them all the best. I can't believe what kind of a tragedy they've experienced, but I'm still going to keep on talking about what the migrants have done to Springfield, Ohio, and what Kamala Harris's open border has done to Springfield, Ohio. And Dana, I think this illustrates the entire contrast between how we're trying to go about this debate and how a lot of the Democrats are trying to go about this debate. They're talking about 12 Proud Boys marching in Springfield, Ohio. They're talking about the frankly fake debunkings of a lot of these stories that are out there. I'm talking to my constituents and I'm hearing terrible things about what's going on in Springfield, and Kamala Harris's open border policies have caused these problems. The hospitals are overwhelmed, Anna. The schools are overwhelmed. The local services are completely overwhelmed. You have people who can't afford housing. Homelessness has gone up. Murders are up by 81% because of what Kamala Harris has allowed to happen to this small community. I'm going to keep on talking about that. Now, of course, we can criticize violence. We can also still talk about the problems that are happening in Springfield, and we should be able to do both those things simultaneously, Dana.
Just once and for all, you again started this in part by saying that, at which Donald Trump repeated on the debate stage, that, and he didn't say anything about the policies that you're talking about. He just said Haitians are eating dogs and cats. Can you affirmatively say now that that is a rumor that has no basis with evidence?
Dana, the evidence is the firsthand account of my constituents who are telling me that this happened. And by the way, I've been trying to talk about the problems in Springfield for months, and the American media ignored it. There was a congressional hearing just last week of angel moms who lost children because Kamala Harris let criminal migrants into this country who then murdered their children. The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys.
Now, again, if you ask me, that statement is highly problematic because we got to ask the question, at what point, how far do you go with the stories, and what do you deem appropriate to create stories about? Who regulates the stories, and how do the stories get checked? If you guys would agree that that's extremely problematic, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that that's problematic and you guys think that this is a okay and normal tactic to use, then give me a thumbs down. Me personally, what this basically says is it's okay to lie, and we can make the truth a lie to get the focus on other things. I don't think that that's okay. I don't think that's a good tactic to use at all. I don't think that that sets a good precedent. I don't think that that's a good idea as a leader to tell people that he could be leading in the future, that I'm willing to go to this extent. Again, and usually, you know, I'm not a big fan of JD Vance, but I think that JD Vance really handles himself. He does a good job at keeping control of these interviews that he gets in, regardless of where he's at them. And I think he kind of, I don't know how he can justify this right here. To me, this was an error on his part, in the same way the bellowing about eating cats and dogs was an error on Trump's part. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. And shout out to Tedra. What's good with it, Tedra?
are completely letting Kamala Harris coast. You had one interview with her. You talk about pushing back against me, Dana. You didn't push back against the fact that she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said that you're
be
creating
talking
a
about
story.
public policy.
Now, this is funny, right? Like this is a hilarious back and forth because like JD Vance, like he checked her ass earlier. You know what I'm saying? He checked her and she shut her ass up. You know what I'm saying? Then she just checked his ass right there. She just checked his ass right there. Shout out to Carlton. She just checked his ass good right there. You know what I'm saying? Let's go.
Sir, you just said that you're creating this.
And he shut up. You know what I'm saying? The same way when he checked her, she just shut up and sat there. She just checked his ass and he's just sitting there looking stupid. That's hilarious to me. He was on a roll and then she said, "You just said you make up stories," and then he just stopped. It was like,
anything about the policies that you're talking about. He just said Haitians are eating dogs and cats. Can you affirmatively say now that that is a rumor that has no basis with evidence?
Now, shout out to Patrick. Let me see what you got, Patrick. Patrick says, "Rob, I didn't see it like he's lying. I see it as he's saying create the stories as opposed to waiting on the media to report it." Okay, I see what you're saying right there. I see what you're saying, right? And I would agree. Now, had he said it the way that you typed it, I think it would have came off better as opposed to just saying we're going to quote unquote create stories. From what you're saying, your paraphrasing of it, is written more clear and effectively than how he said it. And the way that he said it, it kind of leaves a little bit of shade. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't disagree with that. But if I were gonna say it, I would have tried to phrase it more so the way that you wrote it versus the way that he said it. Shout out to DeAndre. DeAndre said it's like cousins fighting to me. I know, right? That's what it looked like. That's what it looked. That's why I'm laughing.
Dana, the evidence is the first-hand account of my constituents who are telling me that this happened. And by the way,
Shout out to Carlo.
I've been trying to talk about the problems in Springfield for months, and the American media ignored it. There was a congressional hearing just last week of angel moms who lost children because Kamala Harris let criminal migrants into this country who then murdered their children. The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you
see now here's where he messed up at. And Patrick, I want you to tell me what you think about this. I would have said, if I have to bring attention to stories myself to get the mainstream media to act on those stories, then I will. I wouldn't have said create. I would have said if I need to bring attention to stories that the mainstream media is not giving the appropriate attention to, that are causing suffering of people in American communities, I'm going to do that since the media is not going to do it. That's what I would have said. I wouldn't have said I'm going to quote unquote create stories. And the reason why I wouldn't have said that is because when it comes to these type of situations, and especially with dealing with the media, you got to be very close-ended to where you leave as little amount of interpretation on their end as you can, because if you make a statement and put the statement out there to the media, if you do not close the ends of it and you leave it to them to make the interpretation, it's going to be the exact same way as if a fight goes to the judges. You had the opportunity to knock the person out and it would have been definitive. But if you leave it up to the judges, now it's up to somebody else to determine or interpret the fight and see if you won. It's up to everybody else to interpret what was said and see what he meant. And your interpretation, which I wouldn't disagree with you, right? Your interpretation is a more favorable interpretation to the one that we know the media who's biased against these guys is going to take. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down.
You
shout out to DeAndre. What's good with you, bro?
By saying that, at which Donald Trump repeated on the debate stage, that, and he didn't say anything about the policies that you're talking about. He just said Haitians are eating dogs and cats. Can you affirmatively say now that that is
right? That's exactly what I'm saying, Patrick. That's you nailed it. That's exactly what I'm saying. That's more clear. And the way he said it, they can say, oh, look, he said create stories. And as in make up. And they already know that one of the big things that they try to push against Trump is they try to label him as a mis and disinformation agent. So it's almost like by him doing this, he like fell on top of the bullseye, which Trump fell on top of the bullseye by, you know what I'm saying, having the cat eating glitch. You know what I'm saying? This
They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Eat the cat, eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat.
I'm telling you, on the remix, they gotta have Crime Mob, they gotta have Trillville, they gotta have Lil Flip, they gotta have Manny Fresh, they gotta have BG and Young Turk, and the remix about to be lit. The remix about to be lit. They gotta have a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of rappers from Louisiana on there. That then it'll be lit.
A rumor that has no base.
Shout out to Unsunken One. What's good with it, bro?
Dana, the evidence is the first-hand account of my constituents who are telling me that this happened. And by the way, I've been trying to talk about the problems in Springfield for months, and the American media ignored it. There was a congressional hearing just last week of angel moms who lost children because Kamala Harris let criminal migrants into this country who then murdered their children. The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump.
Look, they could get a little verse. They could get a little verse from Mystical. I'm in jail because that cat. I can't pay no bail because that cat. I'm in jail where it ain't no cat at. But when I get out, I'm gonna eat that cat. You know what I'm saying? And then the chorus come in. Trump.
Eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs. Eat the cat, eat the cat. Eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. Eat the cat, eat the cat.
Then Currency come on there. You know she like my style. Eat the cat. Make them whiskers go meow. Lit.
Trump and I start talking about cat memes. If I have to, create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast. You had one interview with her.
Yeah, well, shout out to Katsy. I don't know, Katsy, if you're talking to me or talking to Patrick. If you're talking to me, what I'm saying is that how he said it right now can be twisted, right? I don't know how he meant it. That's the problem with interpretation. When I'm listening, I'm taking it literal, exactly what he said. Now, if you take what he said literal, that literally means to make stuff up, right? I'm making up a story, right? Nobody makes up a story that's real. That's why you got to make it up. I wouldn't be interested in making up stories. I would bring attention to the existing issues, which is why that's how I would have said it. There's no need to, it's the same thing that I said with any of the, when the false reports come out. There's no need for any of that because there's actually legit stories. We don't need to make anything up because we got plenty of stories to draw from. 8 to 10 car accidents, people getting deleted, in reckless driving, and it's not being prosecuted, putting a strain on local resources. There's plenty of issues that can have more attention brought to them, right? So that's what I would have said. Me personally, I don't think anything needs to be quote unquote made up about what's going on in Springfield or any of these places that are dealing with migrant crisis, because there's already information out there about it. The problem is, which is what I would have said, to throw the problem back on the media, they're not putting attention to it. Why is it that, YouTubers who have limited resources are covering these special topics to more detail than multi-million-dollar media conglomerates? They're not focusing the attention on these things. And the reason why they're not focusing the attention on these things is because they're biased towards one candidate. And if you put the attention on these problems that I'm listing here, it's going to make the candidate that you favor look bad. That's what I would have said if I was JD Vance. You know what I'm saying? So, and also in saying what I said, I mean what I said. And I don't think that they're, somebody, of course, there would have been pushback. They got to defend themselves, but nobody's going to be able to say, well, you're willing to make things up to get your point across. No, I'm willing to put attention on things that are already in existence so that other people can see them. And so that maybe it will motivate you to cover these things that need to be covered. I don't need to fabricate anything. When I'm listening to what JD Vance is saying, I'm hearing fabrication. You know what I'm saying? Now, in all fairness, that's just what I'm hearing. Again, that may not be what he meant, right? And Patrick, his interpretation of what JD Vance said is just as legitimate as mine. However, that's the problem when there's an interpretation, because neither I nor Patrick know if what either one of us interpreted him to say is exactly what he meant. If that makes sense, give me a thumbs up. If it don't make any sense, give me a thumbs down.
Talk about pushing back against me, Dana. You didn't push back against the fact that she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said that you're creating a story.
Public policy.
Hey, that should be a drop.
Sir, you just said that you're creating the story.
What's that, Dana?
Hey, that should be a drop right there. Like his shoulders sank down and everything. See how he all perked up right there? She says, "You're creating a story," and he just like deflated.
Deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said that you're creating a story.
Public policy.
Sir, you just said that you're creating the story.
What's that, Dana?
You just said that this is a story that you created. So that the eating dogs and cats thing is not.
Dana, it comes from firsthand accounts from my constituents. I say that we're creating a story, meaning we're creating the American media focusing on it. I didn't create 20,000 illegal migrants coming into Springfield.
Okay, so now with the follow-up, right, with him saying, I'm creating a story, meaning we're creating the American media focus on it. Now I think Patrick's interpretation was more accurate than mine. Listening after that clip right there, I gotta say Patrick's interpretation is more accurate than mine. I think Patrick nailed it, and my interpretation was wrong. Because he went on and clarified right here. But see, you can't even give him a clip, though. That's the problem. Like, you can't even give him a clip. You got to hit the target all the time. They still trying to play that bloodbath, talking about that was Trump threatening violence. You know what I'm saying? So this is why it's so important to be very careful with how you use your words.
Of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast. You had one interview with her. You talk about pushing back against me, Dana. You didn't push back against the fact that she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said that you're creating a story.
Public policy.
Sir, you just said that you're creating the story.
What's that, Dana?
You just said that this is a story that you created. So that the eating dogs and cats thing is not.
Dana, it comes from firsthand accounts from my constituents. I say that we're creating a story, meaning we're creating the American media focusing on it. I didn't create 20,000 illegal migrants coming into Springfield.
I want y'all to read his body language. You see how he turned his head to the side and said, Dana? He realized at that point what he had said, and he realized he had to make sure that he, tried to, clean it up. But, it's going to be too late. They're going to take the first little clip.
Who lost children because Kamala Harris let criminal migrants into this country who then murdered their children. The American media totally ignored this stuff until Donald Trump and I started talking about cat memes. If I have to create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering of the American people, then that's what I'm going to do, Dana, because you guys are completely letting Kamala Harris coast. You had one interview with her. You talk about pushing back against me, Dana. You didn't push back against the fact that she cast the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which is why a lot of Americans can't afford food and housing.
You just said that you're creating a story.
Public policy.
Sir, you just said that you're creating the story.
What's that, Dana?
You just said that this is a story that you created. So that the eating dogs and cats thing is not.
Dana, it comes from firsthand accounts from my constituents.
See right there?
I say that we're creating a story, meaning we're creating the American media.
He realized that he said it wrong.
Focusing on it. I didn't create 20,000 illegal migrants coming into Springfield thanks to Kamala Harris's policies. Her policies did that, but yes, we created the actual focus that allowed the American media to talk about this story and the suffering caused by Kamala Harris's policies.
Do you condemn the Proud Boys, even if it's just 12, even if it's just one marching in Springfield?
Can I condemn all white supremacists? I'm obviously not. I'm married to a non-white person. I don't like these people, but I think that we have to.
That doesn't make you not a white supremacist, bro. You know what I'm saying? I again, I want y'all to pick this, and I'm gonna just say this, right? This is one of the reasons why I believe that quote unquote DPing is a fundamentally flawed issue, because these people judge not being a quote unquote white supremacist by where they go with their intimacy. That's the first thing that they'll say, whether it's who they like, whether it's who they're with, whether it's, you know, I have a friend or a family member. The fact that they associate that with disassociating themselves from that, I don't understand. Like to me, again, it's just more proof of the thin black line. It's just more proof of the idea that all of these ideas, including ideas that many of us have adopted, literally all are rooted in this type of ideology. And my opinion for people is to reject all of these ideologies. If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. Again, like think about this, right? I want y'all to think about this. You can say that you're not a white supremacist because you're married or dealing with somebody that's not white, right? Now, how many people know misogynists and chauvinists who are married to a woman? Most misogynists and chauvinists deal with women. That's how they get the label, right? So that would be crazy for a person to say, I'm not a misogynist, I'm not a chauvinist, I'm married to a woman, I love women. That like it's the same thing. Just because you're married to a woman doesn't mean that you respect and love all women. So these kind of blanket nonsensical statements, they don't hold any weight and they don't make sense. And what's interesting about it is, like, on the extreme ends of this kind of stuff, you hear the same type of like Umar Johnson-esque rhetoric, and it's like, but these points, like, they fail. They don't make sense. Let me ask you guys a question. If you're married to your wife and you beat the brakes off of your wife every day, like in most domestic violence situations, can you then go to a judge and the judge says you're a narcissist, you're an abuser, you're a womanizer, and you say, I can't be a womanizer, I can't be a chauvinist, I can't be a misogynist because I'm married to a woman? Does that make any sense? But somebody can then say, well, I'm not, a racist or whatever because I'm married to somebody that's not black or that's not white. That doesn't make any sense. You can't use somebody that you're with as a disqualifier. Your behaviors and your actions only, and a pattern of maintaining those behaviors and actions, whether those actions are being a normal, decent human being or whether those behaviors are a consistent pattern of racism and anti-blackness, you know what I'm saying? Your behaviors are what are your determinant. Simp ideology makes it where it's determinant on whatever you're going in or whatever not necessarily whatever you came out. It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical and it doesn't hold up. And I agree with Patrick. Shout out to Patrick. Patrick said he's married to his Indian wife. That doesn't exempt him from hating Black Americans. And technically, as we know from the United States, speaking of immigration, Customs and Immigration Services, the courts, Indian people fought to be classified as white. So on paper, they're not in a interracial relationship. On paper, they're in a, white man, white woman relationship. On paper. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down. So, I mean, this is what I'm saying right here. You know what I mean? It doesn't make sense. How can so check this out then. Can a LGBTQ male be a misogynist based on this kind of logic? Based on this kind of logic, an LGBTQ male, what would they be, a misogynist, or what would they be? It don't make any sense. Things got to make sense. And this is logic that could easily be knocked down. You know what I'm saying?
To keep our focus, not on 12 marchers going down the street, but on the fact that thousands of residents have had their lives destroyed by Kamala Harris's policy. I find this very unusual, Dana, that the American media is more interested in a bunch of losers marching down the street than they are in the fact that Kamala Harris has made these people's lives worse. I'm not talking about 12.
Now, I didn't hear anything. I heard the KKK was going to Springfield. I didn't hear nothing about the Proud Boys. Did y'all hear anything? If you guys heard about the Proud Boys going to Springfield, give me a thumbs up. If you guys didn't hear about the Proud Boys going to Springfield, then give me a thumbs down. I didn't hear anything about that.
Proud Boys, I'm talking about 40,000 residents, 40,000 constituents of mine, many of whom can't afford housing and food because of Kamala Harris's open border. That is what I want to focus the media's attention on. We're going to keep on doing it because I think the American people deserve a government that puts their interests first. Can I make just one more final point about this, Dana?
Yes,
you've heard a lot of the media focusing on every possible distraction from the story in Springfield. You've heard them focus on these Proud Boys marches. You've heard just
shout out to DeAndre. Yeah, because here's the thing, right? It's a lot of people that's supporting Trump and Vance. And like I said, you know what I'm saying? Like, they got their flaws, but the people that support Trump and Vance, you know, they really kind of quiet on the flaws. They'll run with this and say, you know, this is correct. And it's not. You know what I'm saying? It's not. And you gotta, you know what I'm saying? That'll tell you something about the people that supporting. Like, yo, if you see something that's not right, it's not right, regardless of if you support the person or not. So what that says is, like, similar to him, they'll just go with the flow in order to get what they want. And to me, that's not the best. I don't agree with that. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with that. And this right here, to me, it kind of exposes it. But, you know, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Kamala Harris and them is worse. I mean, this is bad, right? Like, this, I don't think that people really understand, like, how bad the election is this year. You know what I'm saying? The election is bad that these guys actually address certain issues that are of interest to us. And the other side is just crazy with just the radical, insane ideologies, wanting men to be in bathrooms with little girls and all kind of weirdness. That's ridiculous. And it doesn't matter how they try to frame it. That's exactly what they want. We could show evidence of it. And again, the same way they changed the definition, allowing people to stay in the country, they've changed the definition of what gender and sex are and what qualifies you as what. So you could have a beard on, right? You could stand in front of a toilet and pee and wear a sundress and go into a bathroom with women. Oh, we changed the definition. And if you don't use our definition, you're going to get canceled. Same way as you entered the country illegal, but we're going to change the definition to where now you can stay in the country legal. And if you mention anything about the legality of how this person got into the country, well, then it's hate speech. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Well, if you guys agree that this makes no sense, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't, give me a thumbs down.
Just in this interview, Dana, the suggestion that because some psychopath is calling it a bomb threat, somehow we have to then ignore 40,000 Springfieldians who are having their lives worsened by Kamala Harris's policies? Well, what is the implication, Dan? I actually love to have this conversation right now live on air.
Right.
What is the implication when you say you calling out these problems has caused a bomb threat? You accused me of causing a bomb threat. Doesn't that mean you should shut up about the residents of Springfield? Don't you realize you're engaged in basic propaganda to silence the concerns of American citizens?
I was quoting the actual mayor of Springfield, Ohio, begging after the bomb threats, begging federal officials, to please stop putting negative attention on his city. And I'm not talking about the policies. I'm not talking about the very real challenges that Springfield has. I'm talking about baseless rumors about Haitians eating dogs and cats. And that, after that was said on a debate stage, that is when these bomb threats started. And that is a fact. Senator, I just want to move on. I have two other quick issues separate from this that I want to talk to you about.
Dana,
go ahead.
Again,
please go ahead.
I think this is actually an important conversation.
Okay.
Look, the Springfield mayor, he's dealing with a lot of terrible things. I certainly sympathize with the guy, and we're going to try to help him out. But he did not accuse me of inciting a bomb threat. He just didn't. And
facts, I gotta agree. If you guys agree with DeAndre, this is a bad look for both sides. Give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree with that, give me a thumbs down. And I want you guys to pay very close attention, because we watch this stuff like a hawk, and both sides look absolutely horrible. I would say that on the looking wise, they both look absolutely horrible. As far as quote unquote policy wise go, I would say that Trump and Vance got the edge. But what's even crazier about it is that if you're somebody that's not going to vote or not taking part in the election because you're not satisfied by any of this, or there's none of this that you feel will create any better situation for you, you've got people out there attempting to try to shame you and bully you into doing what they want you to do. I'm not gonna do what people want me to do, right? I wouldn't advise any of you guys, if you've got your mind made up, if you're gonna vote for Trump, vote for Trump. Don't let anybody tell you what to do. If you're gonna vote for Kamala Harris, don't let anybody try to bully you into voting a different direction. If you're hitting the couch, don't let anybody try to bully you. We're not out here getting bullied. And the problem is that you got people online and people all over the place who are trying to bully people who have legitimate reasons for making the actions that they plan on doing. And what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying, is ain't nobody over here getting bullied. You know what I'm saying? We're not getting, you saw what happened when people trying to make videos about me talking wild and talking crazy, right? You think I changed anything up? Nope. I'm a bully to bully. And that's how I advise everybody to be. That's how I advise everybody to be. Never let anybody try to bend you out of your will unless you want to go there yourself. If you guys would agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys would disagree, give me a thumbs down.
If we're going to take the firsthand accounts of people who are on the ground in Springfield, why don't you bring on some of the people on your program who say that the migrants are eating their pets? You're applying a double standard here. You're saying if one person accuses JD Vance, I'm going to take that person's word as the gospel truth, even if you misrepresent it. If you have another person who's saying they're eating the cats, you're going to completely ignore them, attack them, silence them, and harass them. That double standard is why the people don't trust the media and why we're not talking about public policy 51 days out from a presidential election.
Okay, if you have somebody you want to tell us about who has proof that somebody ate their cat, of course we want to hear that. We certainly have had no evidence that that is actually something that happened. And I just want to say, I have not accused you of anything. I am quoting the mayor who said, after these bomb threats, federal politicians are negatively spinning our city. They need to know they are hurting our city. It was their words that did it. Okay, that I'm quoting him, and it seems to be a Dana, cause and effect.
Roll the tape. You just accused me of inciting a bomb threat. There's no evidence of this. I condemn violence and threats of violence. We should be able to do that and also still talk about what's going on in Springfield.
I'm glad.
All right, so there's that. I thought that was a pretty interesting exchange, and honestly, I don't think very much came out of it.